Welcome back, artists. Today we're going to talk about Original Works 4th grade project. 4th grade, we are focusing on landscapes. And here is our learning target. I will know how to describe abstract art and how to create the illusion of depth in my landscape. So I can create a bold, bright landscape. I will know I'm successful when my landscape illustrates a color scheme, bold lines, and the illusion of depth. And the reason why we say illusion is because when we work on a flat piece of paper, it really doesn't go back in space, but we give the illusion that it does. And there's a couple ways we do that. One way is we'd use overlapping. Overlapping creates illusion of depth. Anytime you have something in front of something else, we have depth, okay? The second thing is size. When we can use little things like plants and vegetation, there's another example, and we get smaller in the distance, that creates the illusion of depth, okay? So those are the two that we're focusing on, overlapping and size. Now you're going to notice with these abstract, the reason why we call them abstract is we're focusing more on line, color, and shape, and less on making it look realistic. Okay, a realistic landscape wouldn't be these bright, bold colors with these black outlines, right? That's how you know it's abstract, because we're focusing more on line, color, and shape. Aren't they gorgeous? You're going to see with these examples that you have some variety you can use with this landscape and how we create it. Starting with a horizon line, if you have a jagged line to start, you're going to have more of a mountain scene. If you do the curved horizon line, you're going to have more of rolling hills. You could do a combo of the rolling hills and mountains. Ooh, look at this one. This one's not quite done, but you could even think about how colors can help interpret your landscape and where it's at. If it's in the hot desert, you'd probably want to do some warm colors. If it's in the rainforest, you'd probably want to do cool colors. So it's just stuff that I want you guys to start to think about. Are you ready to start? All right, so in your sketchbook today, this is just step 1 in our creation. And we're going to be experimenting with our medium, which we are starting with a pencil. Okay, you guys will get a bag of pastels, and I want you guys to be aware of this. We're using the portfolio pastels, because the portfolio pastels are water soluble, which means that we can use them like pastels, but we can also use them, color them like pastels, but then blend them with a wet paintbrush, and then it just turns into watercolor paint, basically. Okay, these pastels might be mixed in. You might have some skinny ones called the Pentel in your bag. They won't mix. Well, you can try it in your sketchbook. It's all about experimenting, but these don't mix because they're just regular oil pastels. If we tried to use a wet brush on them, nothing would happen. It just resists it, okay? All right. Okay, so decide what kind of landscape you're going to do. Are you going to do a flat kind of landscape like you might find in Kansas? Are you going to do a rolling hills with those curved lines? Are you going to do a jagged mountain scene, or a combination? What would you like to see me do for this example? Evan?
Baseball field.
No, that's not a landscape. Now that, a cornfield?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be more of a flat line. And yeah, I could definitely show you that because I didn't have a lot of examples of that. Okay, so if I'm doing a cornfield, and this is, I would say the challenge is that it's flat. It's not rolling hills, right? So if I was doing a cornfield, you could do it. like in the background, right? Some rolling hills. But my overlapping is going to have to come from these straight lines. And I'm just going to do it all the way up. Now these lines will become bold lines with a thick black outline. Even though they're straight and flat, we're still going to add that. Now, in a cornfield, what would I use to show depth and size? Could use corn.
Depth, you could use like, there's some corn in the front, and then when it gets back more, it gets smaller.
Uh-huh. Absolutely. Size is going to play a big role.
Kind of like the shadow and like different colors of the corn stalk.
Yep, we could do that too. But I'm looking for objects. What's one more object that might, you think, work in a cornfield?
A two-story shed.
Ooh, maybe like a shed or a mill. Yeah. Or a silo, they call those, where they store the grain. What about, you know what I was thinking? One of those windmills. Yes. Okay. So if I'm going to add those, I have to do one in the foreground. Here's some more knowledge for you guys. There's 3 parts to every landscape. A foreground, a midground, which is short for middle ground, and a background. Okay? So if something is going to be large and in charge, it's going to be in the foreground. I'm going to do one of those big energy. Okay. Now there is overlapping, so I have to make sure I erase where the overlapping is happening. So I'm going to do this one a little bit smaller because it's farther away, showing depth. Now after I'm done drawing these, then it's time to experiment with your pastel and blending of colors. And I have to tell you, see a little overlapping here, that when we're blending colors, always keep in mind that you want very similar colors that are blending, they blend well together, or analogous colors, which are next to each other on the color wheel. So if you look up there at the color wheel right now, actually I'll grab a color wheel for our video. Let's do it this way. So analogous colors would be right next to each other, like yellow, orange, and red. Those are going to blend well together. Or you can look for if you have different hues of a color, like a light blue and a dark blue and a violet blue. Okay, those are going to blend the best together. Okay, one more at least. You want at least 3 of these. You could do more. 3 objects changing in size as they go back to the background. Maybe what if I did a really tiny one? When you look over the cornfields or the wheat fields driving to Kansas, there's certain towns that there's thousands of these.
Just like when you're on that drive, like near Candelas and Superior.
Okay, after I'm done drawing and showing depth in my foreground, midground, and background, then I could outline with a Sharpie. Okay, these are the steps we're going to take on our final, so we might as well practice these as well. Once I'm done outlining, I can start with my pastel blending, and on your sketchbook, I want you to experiment with different colors. So they might not be colors that you're going to end up using, but I want you to try out different blends. See what works and see what doesn't work. Okay? Is that a good place to start? Yeah. All right, so that was step 1 in our original works design. One thing, Chase, that I didn't tell you guys is that when we do our original works, we really have to focus on our audience. And our audience for this art project is not just ourselves, but it is our families who are wanting to purchase items with our artwork on it. And if it's not your best, will they know? Yes. Yes, they will. And I'll tell you a story about that